Hello, everyone. I see big participants are back from lunch already. I just want to check that you can hear me well. Hello, Mary. Welcome to the session. And we'll be initiating the afternoon activities in 3 minutes. So make yourselves comfortable. Make sure that your audio is working, that you can hear as well. And we meet back here in a couple minutes.
Thank you.
Starting at 2.
Yes, we are.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so I see people are eager to start. We can do it 1 minute earlier. Maybe my watch as well is 1 minute earlier than everyone's. So welcome back to the afternoon session of the BlueInvest Thematic Workshop in Chippy. I want to once again thank for everyone that engaged in the morning session and that was actively presenting their opportunities, presenting their technologies, moderating, and also sharing a little bit of the insights of the future of the blue economy with us. Without further ado, for this session, the rules are quite simple, similar to the morning session. I'm going to ask everyone as you are presenting to please keep your camera on, as well as test your microphone, make sure you're unmuted. For everyone else that is not presenting, please make sure that your microphones are muted. Also, you will see that in the main page of WebEx on your right-hand side on the bottom, you have 2 icons, participants and chat. If you click on them, you will be able to see on your right-hand side a panel with all the participants, so the panelists' names, as well as the chat. All the questions for pitchers or for corporates can be sent directly through the chat, correct? So here you can see the little detail and the zoom. If you're writing a question and you want to be read out loud, please send it to everyone. By doing so, you allow the rest of the participants to follow the questions closely. Having any issues, please go into the bottom of your page and the unmute. You can check your settings, both speaker and microphone. As you test, you should hear a sound. And as you test your microphone, you should be able to see the oscillation when you speak. So if any of those 2 are not working, feel free to just go ahead and do a quick check. Finally, once you click on X, you leave the session. So there will be a few questions that we kindly ask you to answer before leaving the question. This is a feedback to us on the event. So if you can take the time to do it, we appreciate and we thank you. We are going to just do a quick recap on the agenda. This morning we did an opening session followed by the investor spotlight and the first speech session. I hope you had a good lunch, that you're energized and ready for continue with the corporate spotlight. So our moderator would be Mary Potilas. She's a paralegal in maritime services and will support the corporates and animate the session. And then at 3, we start the second pitch session that will be once again moderated by Nicholas, that you're all very familiar already. And we jump into the closing sessions. So I pass the word to Mary. You are now good to start. Thank you so much for being here with us. And,
Thank you, Renata, and I thank BlueGrowth and PwC for all the organization. An excellent event so far with a very interesting morning session. And I hope the afternoon after the lunch will be equally interesting. We are having a very interesting topic, the corporate spotlight. And during lunchtime, I was watching the news, and it showed that Crete has a very bad weather at the moment. It's in red alert. So climate change is already having a substantial physical impact in regions across the world. It affects human life, but it affects also all factors of production where economic activity is based. We have to think, companies have to rethink and redesign the production to a greener approach and more ecologically friendly. If we look at Allianz Risk Barometer, which is an industry tool for those who deal with insurances, the CEO of Allianz said that this year's barometer highlights that cyber risks and climate change are the two significant challenges that companies need to watch closely in the new decade. According to the barometer, climate change rises to its highest ever position. Companies are more concerned about physical losses from extreme weather events, but they also fear consumer criticism and increasing regularly and legal action. And this is very important because in the last Davos meeting of the World Economic Forum in January, just before the outbreak of COVID, a vocal group of senior business leaders have stepped up their demands calling for unified climate disclosure standards and frameworks across reporting companies, investors, and regulators. More specifically, the CEO of Bank of America said that companies want a harmonized climate disclosure standards so they don't have to argue with everybody. So we can see that the whole world understands that the climate changes need to be a priority and the whole production need to focus on that. However, they are worried on how it will be done in a more harmonized level. Today, that's what we are going to see, how our industry, the companies in our sector, how they are getting and how they are preparing for it, and worries are. And to help us in this session, we have with us Mr. George Teriakidis, Area Manager, East Mediterranean and Black Sea of DNVGL, and Mrs. Zoe Hasura, Treasurer, Worldwide Industrial and Marine Association, who will give us, they will share their knowledge on how well is our industry's companies prepared. Shall we start the first presentation?
Perfect. Okay. Do I have the controls? So I can change. Thank you. So I can change the slides. A big thank you for this event and the invitation to be able to present. Special thanks to BlueGrowth and Stamatia, as well as the team from PwC for organizing this and setting it up so professionally. I have 10 minutes. I'll try and squeeze everything within 10 minutes. So without any further delay, I'm starting my presentation. As you can see, I'm from DNVGL. I'm the area manager. And basically what I'm going to present is results of a recent report that we have published. It comes out every year for the last 4 years at least. And basically this report focuses on different topics, one of them being the maritime and maritime business and how this will develop all the way to 2050. We all know, and you can see on the top left, that we have specific regulations that need to limit the emissions coming from shipping. In our report, we develop certain scenarios where basically we come up with certain results out of the scenarios, previews on the top right. And we can also look, and thanks to the scenarios, we look into the different options for decarbonization in terms of fuels, energy sources, and what challenges will be there for shipping. Moving ahead, it is, I think, evident, and we can say that there are certain short-term policy measures that IMO is trying to implement that we will be coming and are impacting the business. IMO is doing its best in order to have these regulations the earliest, because it's the only body that can basically apply regulations that cover globally the whole of shipping. In the longer term, we have certain developments that are needed to be done. For example, development of carbon neutral fuels in order to be able to meet the 2050 goals. And that's a fact for no matter what date somebody puts in the calendar to meet those targets. If you don't have carbon neutral fuels, shipping will have to burn something. And if these fuels are not available, then the targets cannot be met. It's as simple as that. So that's why the stakeholders, except the IMO, needs to come along, and everybody should, so to speak, align their compasses and their priorities towards the same goal. This is slowly happening, but we all hope that it will happen faster and sooner than later. However, all these things have an impact on costs, on the value of the vessels, earning capacity, and so forth. Now, these are too many graphs and too many lines, just a quick outlook. This is just to show you how uncertain is the future. There are two graphs that show the same thing. On the left-hand side is basically CO2 emissions over time in different years, while the one on the right is the carbon intensity, which is basically CO2 over carrying capacity of the vessel. What you will see that the graph has three main zones. A green zone, which is an ambition zone, that decarbonization will happen by 2040. A yellow zone, which is current IMO ambitions, and a blue one, which says we do nothing. The different lines actually are different scenarios, and you can see that the target is to meet the targets by 2050. There are some steep curves there which demand certain prerequisites that we will see in the next slides. If basically we're going to have an optimistic scenario which says that shipping will decarbonize by 2040, then we will see the green area of this graph happening, which means that we will have basically carbon neutral fuels coming up very quickly and in the next couple of years into use by shipping. And this will rise very steeply so that we will have the decarbonization by 2040. A very optimistic scenario, as we will see later on. However, if we see if we go by IMO ambitions, we see that there is the yellow area, we see that there is a very flat line from 2020 all the way to 2025, then slowly having a step increase that will take us into decarbonization 2050. And the biggest change happening between 2035 and 2040. Again, these are predictions based on our scenarios, based on various assumptions. Now, to show how complicated the picture is, and I think that's the main outtake from this slide, these are basically the three scenarios. They're grouped in two areas, into two groups. One which is no ambition at all, and the other two which are basically decarbonization scenarios. The different colors on the horizontal axis, we have how much percentage of each fuel will be used, and each color represents a different fuel. You can see that there are a lot of options, and depending on the scenario, there are different portfolio, so to speak, of available fuels out there that shipping can use in order to meet the criteria. There is no single fuel that basically will solve the problem. There's no silver bullet, unfortunately. Ammonia can play a predominant role. And also a comment here is that you don't see actually hydrogen because, at least based on our models, hydrogen will not be a main player as a prime fuel. However, it will be a main player in developing other fuels. Now, moving a little bit faster to the main part, which I think will be more interesting. So we have a gap. We need the carbon neutral fuels. How can we close and bridge this emission gap that we have today, from today all the way to 2050? So are we moving in that direction? All these are nice and good, but what happens today? Actually, if we see on the bottom left-hand side, today we have basically 99.7% of the world fleet not using carbon neutral fuels. We have, you can see the percentages. I think methanol, LNG, and battery are the ones that are used today out of this very small percentage. And the ships that are on order are again a very, very small fraction of them being actually having as a prime fuel carbon neutral fuel. So basically only 6% of the current new buildings are with an alternative fuel propulsion. Now, somebody who doesn't know and has not seen all of the data and presentations done this morning will say that's pretty pathetic. And somebody has to say, yes, it is, but why? Why this is happening? If we take the ship owner's perspective and look at it, actually the reason is that currently we have very small percentage of mature low carbon solutions as well as fuels. That's one problem. And that you have to put in the cost of those fuels as well as the availability of those fuels. On the other hand, we also have the low demand for such solutions. Now, somebody might say that this sounds a little bit strange because everybody is looking for shipping to adapt. However, up until very, very recently, if somebody was building a ship that was burning, for example, ammonia, the charterer would give him exactly the same freight rate as he would for a ship burning oil. So you can understand that there was no incentive, actually, financial incentive to move forward with that. So the ship owners, if they wanted to build a ship up until today like that, they have various barriers. Now, on top of that, and coming slowly to a close so I don't delay more, if we take some of these fuels, this fuel sample that we've taken are the ones on the right of the slide with the different colorful dashes, LPG, methanol, ammonia, biofuel, and LNG, hydrogen, and electricity in batteries. They all have certain challenges. The slider that you see here are different factors and where each fuel lies on these factors. I won't go into that, but if you have the slides, you will be able to go into detail. Just to give you an idea that, for example, hydrogen, which is the dark blue, it's quite immature in terms of both technical maturity, fuel availability, as well as infrastructure and capital expenditure, which means it costs a lot. So all of these fuels have many disadvantages today. On top of that, because we all talk about fuels, but our organization is also looking to another important factor that unfortunately it's overlooked many times. It's the safety. And safety, not in terms of human safety, what if somebody gets hurt or something, but safety of the equipment on board and how a vessel can operate safely without technical failures, without any disastrous effects, and to have a sustainability in its operation. So all these, let's call them non-conventional fuels, they have properties that are slightly, that create certain safety challenges. Some are very toxic or need special handling. Currently, we need to assess all these things and find appropriate solutions which mitigate risk to human life, as well as the environment, and of course, the vessel itself. And closing, I have one more slide. This is an interesting slide, just to put things in perspective. This basically step ladder shows where we are as far as LNG is concerned, which is already used in various applications, not worldwide, but various applications already, which is on the top. I mean, it's the deep sea shipping can use and is using LNG. However, all the other fuels, for example, ammonia or hydrogen or biofuel and batteries, are very low in this step ladder. Now, if we consider that LNG took about 20 years to climb that ladder, it might look frightening that we will be too late by developing and making all these fuels available to the world shipping. However, this shows another important point that we all need to come together, and we shouldn't let it only to the ship owners to tackle this issue. We need to have fuel producers, regional authorities, countries, and other bodies to come together and basically pull together all the resources and power and money in order to develop all the solutions faster than it would normally do. And in order to help this, we have something that we call it basically fuel flexibility, which means use today something that you have, diesel or LNG, which could be compatible with something else in the future. So LNG can be compatible with bio-LNG, meaning that if I have a storage tank, if I have a tank on board the ship or a truck that carries LNG today, it can carry probably bio-LNG tomorrow. And that means that we do not have to invest in a new infrastructure that will delay even further the development and adoption from shipping. Last slide, and I thank you for the time. Bottom line, we need to act fast and we need to do it now. Within the next decade, we have to have new generation carbon neutral ships, which means also fuels. If these fuels are not available in the next few years, then we are really late and we're going to miss the train. In order to develop these fuels and technologies, we all need to come together. There has to be investments from all parties all around the world and from different stakeholders, as well as ensure that the safety of use for these fuels will be basically, it will be mitigated and we will have basically managed all those risks. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. That's all from my side.
Thank you, George. Very enlightening and very interesting, all that you presented to us, and we'll discuss it in a while. Zoe, can you present us your position?
Thank you very much for inviting me this session. It was very nice listening to your all these section of George that analyzed all the perspectives of the future towards 2050, and I'm glad to present to you some association. It's a women association, which is comprising of 60 companies, all related to the maritime industry, which bring us back to that stage before the one that George mentioned that we should go ahead to reach. This is the persons, I mean, the people trying to cope with all the regulations that the IMO has applied in order to build safer and more, let's say, up-to-date technologies to support efficiency and low cost of running a ship. Our association, as I told you, is comprising of 60 companies. We are a non-profit maritime association. We try to complete turnkey projects which are trying to facilitate more than a number of companies in this association. Each one is running an activity which is related to the maritime industry and trying to share services and products as well. We are a group of companies that we are trying always to promote our services to our customers, which are the owners, of course, and sharing our technical know-how and as well as innovative ideas. In this respect, we try to do we are always aiming to economy of scale so that we can invest the less funds in having, of course, the same results, because we are all together trying to develop these new strategies, which will bring us to a position to offer the best up-to-date certified services and products to the customers. This one would lead, of course, to some particularly interesting results. I mean, when you have to give your services to the owner who is trying to reduce also the cost, but to make the ship more efficient and work without risks during the course of its route, then it is hard work for them to meet the IMO regulations and comply with all this expected to be done. As far as we know that we already have switched to some lower content carbon fuels that would need, of course, an extra, let's say, extra coating for piston rings, or need cylinder liners that would bear all the stress that the engine will take from this kind of scope. In addition, we have to meet with the new technological era, which will bring us to the digitalization of the ship, and this will also have a very tremendous effect to the efficiency and cost reducing of the vessel, of the working of the vessel. Let me present to you the director of the board of directors of our association, which is Mr. Elias Koutsoufoglou, the chairman, Mr. Angelos Drakopoulos, Anastas Anasopoulos, myself as the treasurer, Ioannis Kondatos, Dimitri Yevdomili, and Sofoklis Kokinis, who are helping us to guide a team of very well organized companies to innovate and apply new ideas and make all the necessary, put all the efforts of them to give better service in all respect to marine market. In this respect, what I would say is the WIMA is the synonym of optimization of efficiency and networking, which means that coming together all these companies, we are exchanging knowledge and experience, and have together tried to make a lot of projects which will bring the budget in a, let's say, more attractive size to the benefit of the owner, of course. Among them are, some of them are already on your screen. These are the most important ones. The things that we can supply, let's say the pairs and the services we have to offer, it's pipe work, specialized marine cleaning, steel works, marine maintenance, ventilation, lifeboat inspection, ultrasonic measurements. In regard to the ship repairs, ship repairs, outfitting, panels, doors, ceilings, all these elevators, escalators, marine insulations, all these are always attached to the requirements for safety, air conditioning systems and refrigerator, yacht cleaning, indoor and outdoor iron fabrics, etc. The electrical automation, which is the recent requirement, which will make more safe the vessel, temperature sensors, level switches, instrumentation, electrical automation services, maritime satellite communication, marine lighting, fire detection, of course, the most important emergency lighting, remote condition monitoring and performance analysis systems, which is, of course, something that all the owners are now requiring to be on their vessels, equipment manufacturers, which are also up to date in order to meet the regulations, service deck air compression, let's say, ballast water treatment systems, which is also one of the best and the more important requirements, refrigeration and condition systems, and marine industrial pollution control for oil space, pumps and pumping systems, industry of gases for marine and health sector, expansion joints and pillars for marine and industrial sectors. Marine equipment as well, which is mentioned in my presentation ahead. We need also to provide this kind of material so that the vessel is running efficiently. Ship services in regard to the human resources, well-trained, of course, crew managed crew and trained by under the new regulations requirements, maritime communication, telemedicine, maritime technology and marine risk firms, supplies, a lot of them are listed below. Yeah, and then a lot of ship services in regard to the marine education, which is needed for a safe welding on board the vessel, naval technical bureaus, which is needed for the hull, the most efficient hull of the vessel, classification societies, bunkerings, lubricants, of course, fumigation, freight forwarders, etc. Our mission, of course, is to work together and effectively cover any requirement in any respect in any sector of shipping marine community. And we have tried so far to maintain this with our customers. The reason why we are now presenting this association to you is because we consider the fact that most of them are third and second and third generation successors. So that means that they follow some innovative ideas. They are up to date. They are using cutting edge technologies. And this is an effort from our side which could combine with the other entrepreneurs' efforts to apply new projects for suiting the maritime community. And this is a place, a stage that we could cooperate with each other and could run some results that would surely lead to some more effective and less cost running ships. This is what we would like to suggest, to trust the greatest network of companies in the marine industry. We are here to help in any respect. We can cooperate with anyone that would like to share new innovative ideas with us. We can work as a team. We can meet every requirement of any kind of ships, and we can produce some results that will bring us towards to the aim of IMO to meet the requirements up to 2050. We are here, we are the backup of the investors, and we are trying our best to meet any kind of requirements by the owners. Very nice to have you with us, and hope I can reply to your questions if there are any.
Thank you, Zoe, for the presentation of WIMA. Very interesting, the sectors of the industry coming together, and it's very much in line with what George said, that the issue of getting greener and is finding the technology. So we need R&D to play a greater part, and not to leave the ship owners to solve the problem as they have done so far with the as most of us feel in the industry, that they were left to deal with sulfur 2020. Cooperation is the number one from what you've said, both of you, among the industry stakeholders. And I want to come to the question, we know from OECD's published reports in 2016 that the estimate that the total global ocean economy is worth about $1.5 trillion US. And it was expected that it will double in 2030 without taking into consideration, of course, the COVID-19 problem. This outspaces the general global economy by a factor of about 20%. The ocean economy is growing very rapidly. The rise of the green economy is also a reality. I want to ask you both, how you think, how prepared are today the shipping companies to meet the challenges of the green economy? And I will start with Zoe.
Well, I suppose, yes. Well, I suppose that this kind of effort is put always in force when someone is facing difficult such as this time we are facing. I mean that I can see that despite the slowdown that we are dealing with due to this coronavirus, we are more stubborn, I would say. We are more we put our heads on that more intensively, and we are trying to find ways to come to the desired results with more strength. I don't believe that it will be easy. It is not so I would say not so promising. The fact that George analyzed as well, it is cost effective and very much problems will put in force due to the fact that no one wants to spend more than earning. And but I believe that everyone will see to the better world that we are all aiming to, and we will comply with all the regulations that are now into force. We will put our mind to have better results. We will do the necessary steps in order we come to a conclusion that will bring us to more clear fuel. And finally, it will be better for everyone, apart from the maritime community, also for people around us, which are expecting from those people that have the power, the strength to manipulate these factors and come to a result that we all, let's say, deserve. I hope that we will not have we will not step back. We will proceed as scheduled, and we will set our minds on this effort. Let's say.
Thank you, Zoe. George, I was impressed actually to see the statistics that you presented us, that only a fraction of the fleet is currently using alternative fuel, and from the new shipbuilding orders, which you would expect that the greener approach would be in a higher percentage. But again, it's a very small fraction. As you said, only 6% of the new orders are with alternative fuels prepared. So what is your view, how the shipping companies are going to proceed with this level of preparation for a greener approach?
Yes, thanks for the question. First of all, a comment about the percentages. When we say we have to know that currently new buildings, which means new ships that are being built in China, Korea, or elsewhere, are at a record low, which means that ship owners are not ordering ships, not as they used to. Actually, they have ordered less than any time that we can think of and remember. One of the reasons is that there are not viable options. And because they recognize that if they build a ship today, a ship lasts for 10, 15, 20 years. So if they build something today, it needs to be applicable to the 2030, 2035 requirements. So if there is no viable, practical, safe, and economical solution to be applied today, and when I say economical, it's very important to know that a ship that loses money will not sail in the ocean. It's as simple as that. It's like having a taxi that is losing money every day. That taxi will stop operating. Now, as far as the because I need to add something else, and people might not like it, but companies are created to create profit. If they don't create profit, they close down. I mean, it's a fundamental issue. Now, as far as the new buildings and how shipping will proceed, we have to define what we mean shipping, because there is a misunderstanding here. There are people who say shipping and they talk about the oil majors, insurance companies, classification societies, ports, authorities, flag authorities that is, and ship owners. And there are others who talk about shipping and they mean the ship owners. So if we're talking about the ship owners, the way they go forward, they cannot change the future by themselves. Because I'll put it to you as simply as this. If I'm driving my car and I want to put ammonia in my car because I want to be proactive and I want to reduce the emissions of my ship, of my car at least, if I don't find a gas station that gives me ammonia, I won't have such a car. It's the same thing with the electric cars. If I don't have a charging point and I want to go 200 kilometers every day and I don't have a charging point, I'm not going to have an electric car. So it's a little bit chicken and the egg if we're talking about ship owners only. If we're talking about the whole of the ecosystem of shipping, all the stakeholders, then we all need to align and to understand what each person needs to do. The people who make fuel need to make fuel. The people who build ships need to build ships that burn this fuel. The people who insure need to give incentives for ships that are green, and so forth and so forth. Currently, we are not all aligned. We are looking a little bit left and right and up and down. Slowly, it's coming together, but it's not as fast as somebody would like to.
Thank you, George. You actually expressed my feelings exactly, because as an ex-ship owner, the last vessel I sold it in 2015. Our company sold it in 2015. That's how I felt, and we didn't invest further, that they to invest to last in the next 10 years. And because with the regulations coming up, what choices as ship owner I had? We didn't have much choice, really. The technology is not there, and is asked by the ship owners to be greener without the right technology. So you've actually expressed my feelings 100%, and I'm sure a lot of ship owners are aligned on this line. Let's look now at the industry, because Anzo and you have defined how important it is for all together the industry to move forward to a greener industry. Following the Poseidon Principles framework, which was adopted by a group of financial institutions last June, earlier this month, under the Sea Cargo Charter, 17 companies, including agri-groups, big ones like Cargill, ADM and Punch, oil majors like Shell and Total, and mining groups as Anglo-American, will from now on publicly disclose annually whether their overall ship chartering activities are in line with IMO 2050 goals. Do you believe that such private initiated actions by major industry stakeholders will speed up the greening of the industry? And I take also what you said in your presentation, that the ship owners do not have the incentive to really invest in alternative fuel vessels, because the rates, the charters themselves don't pay higher rates for a vessel. So there isn't the incentive there. Do you think, therefore, that such an incentive initiative from people like Sea Cargo Charter and the Poseidon Principles will assist the shipping industry? George?
Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, actually, I think it would. My only comment is that they're not so private. I mean, when we say private, somebody might say, yeah, but it's an individual or something. All these people are part of what we call shipping and the different players in the shipping community. And as I said earlier, we all need to align and play and take responsibility of our role and align and do our thing towards decarbonization of shipping. So some people need to give incentives. Some other people need to make a how to call it reports and assess if a certain fuel is safe or not. But each one has to take their part. And I believe that such initiative, just like Poseidon Principle, just like the Sea Cargo Initiative, all these things will play a positive role. They're all in the right direction, and it gives a signal that if somebody is a first mover, he will be rewarded. He will not be left aside.
Thank you. When I said private sector, I meant from the privately financed sector, not the governmental or regulatory. From that respect, these are big industry stakeholders who have their own from the industry initiative. Yes, Zoe?
Well, I would agree with George that, of course, I can understand what you mean by private, let's say, move, but I do believe that all of the private companies that have initiative and they are, let's say, self-motivated for, of course, as a result, to have better income, more profit on that. And they are trying to win the race. Who will be the first? Who will manage to cover the needs? So if they have this initiative, then I think that it will be something positive for all of us.
And I believe the same, particularly when it comes from the finance sector, because in order to build newer vessels which will be greener and we need the investment of the new technology, as we've discussed, and you need the finance, because this new technology won't come from the next morning. It will take some time, and it will need the funds in order to do the research. So whether it's from the private sector that will invest, or it will be from the governmental sectors, which I personally believe should be a joint effort. Both the private sector and the government should invest on it and support the RD technology, bearing in mind that shipping is the #1 carrier of all first materials, finished and semi-finished products. So it's for the benefit of the whole world economy, not of one country or a region. It's for the whole world. If they invest in new R&D technology, and in order to maintain, because that's what shipping has managed for so many years, traditionally has managed to keep the rates low. So without investment, that won't be possible. Coming to my third question is that the European Economic and Social Committee in 2014 report, Innovation in the Blue Economy, realizing the potential of our seas and oceans for jobs and growth, was concerned by the lack of coordination of measures initiated by the private and public sectors. How true is this today? Do you feel that there is more cooperation among the public and the private sectors? Zoe?
I would say that, as always, pioneers are the private sectors, not the public sectors. So private sector always has to drag public sector with them. It's my opinion, and I don't see anything that has changed nowadays so far. I don't know what is your opinion, but I don't believe that they are trying to cope with some, let's say, kind of partnerships. But if there is not the private sector alone to go ahead and initiate something, I think that the public sector will not be the one to guide the way. They are trying to help nowadays, of course, more than in the past, but I think the private sector is also always the one who goes ahead.
So you said something in your presentation also, that the IMO should be the body that can harmonize the industry as far as regulations are concerned. Do you see that this is happening, or you see the regulatory going above IMO and not listening really to the industries as a whole?
We are fortunate in shipping, in general shipping, that, I mean, I'm not aware of any other industry. Maybe there is, and if there is, my apologies. But at least shipping has the advantage that there is a body that governs regulations globally and to the whole of industry. No matter if you're a ship owner in US, China, Japan, Greece, or Africa, you have to follow the same rules. Full stop. That's a pretty impressive thing if you think about it. And I think it's an advantage when we move into an area of decarbonization where the whole world needs to move at the same time in the same direction with the same targets and have the same regulations all over the place, because it creates a level playing field, number one. And number two, everybody knows that that's how they should operate. On top of that, it makes the transportation of goods much more efficient and cheaper. Now, if we have regional initiatives which are in parallel or above the IMO regulations, I believe we have the creation of a complexity that is not needed. So we believe that IMO should be the one to do the job, to put it plain and simply. Now, if it can be done faster or smoother, that's a different matter, but they have to govern it. It's an advantage that we have to cherish it and use it.
It's important for the industry, to my mind at least, that there should be a harmonization because shipping is the most global industry. So without harmonization, there will be an imbalance in the economies. And if a region overregulates, then that region might lose at the end of the day rather than win. So I think it's important to have a cooperation and listen to the industry.
For intra-EU vessels, intra-EU trips, there could be only a measure for emissions trading. That's on the cards. And sometimes the EU introduces new measures that then are adopted elsewhere. For instance, with the Port Reception Facilities Directive, the EU went ahead first, and now it's trying to get it adopted at an international level through the IMO.
Yes, it's true. For the port receptions. I'm coming to, because the time is flying, my last question. In the latest study of the Foundation for Economic and Industrial Research, EOVE, which is a very serious body for research here in Greece, and was commissioned by Mexpo, it refers to the European Commission 2013 report that the European shipyards meet about 6% of global demand for new ships in terms of capacity and 19% of demand in terms of value. Respectively, though, the sector of shipping equipment manufacturing serves about half of global demand in terms of value. I must admit that I was impressed when I was reading the report, because I didn't know about that in the EU has such a strong equipment manufacturing sector. Is essential to be promoted. Can the shipping equipment manufacturing sector of the blue economy of EU be more competitive than with the Asian competitors because of greener policies and regulations? And I will start this time with George.
Can you, sorry, Mary, can you repeat the last part because there was some noise? Pardon me. The last part of the question.
Yes, of course. Can the shipping equipment manufacturing sector of the blue economy of EU be more competitive with the Asian competitors because of greener policies and regulations?
Thank you very much. I have not read the OVE report. However, to answer your question, I think it could be competitive, taking into consideration, of course, that we have the same level playing field as we were saying earlier, and then we have the same rules all around the world, meaning that if we have somebody making an equipment, let's say, that needs to comply only European Union requirements, however, in China and the rest of the world, the requirements are more relaxed or more strict for that matter, then there is an imbalance there. On top of that, we have to always keep in mind the cost for production that we have in Europe and the cost of production we have in China and in Korea. So in terms of equipment production, I think, and we've seen this with ships, if I can bring that as an example. Europe was an area to, for example, to build ships which are more specialized than the more common types, like a bulk carrier or a tanker or a container ships. You could see that Europe was building cruise ships, was building smaller but more advanced ships, like LNG fuel ships, electric vessels, hybrid vessels. So it depends for which industry we're talking. It depends on the cost, but also, as we said earlier, with the regulations that will be either worldwide or regional. I hope it answers partly the question.
Thank you. The report was published actually this June. So, it has the latest statistics and it's very interesting. It's in the site of Hamexpo. So it's very interesting. Zoe, yes, would like your opinion.
I would say, in what respect the European community can be more, let's say, competitive. It always uses some kind of material which is in comparison to the ones that are used in, let's say, Far East, China, Asia, mostly, are not the same quality. I mean, if you have to, let's say, sometime a long time ago, let's say, China implied a new material which was named Dura. Dura material, it's supposed to be the most strong material to withhold high pressures, high temperatures, etc. According to what I have read, Dura is now produced also, or not now, a long time ago, of course, is also produced in Europe. However, the ingredients, the material, the percentage of its composition of these materials is different, and it gives a different strength, a different quality to the same Dura called equipment. The meaning of what I'm saying is that maybe we put some more money on buying some European, let's say, product, but the result is that it lasts longer than the Asia, maybe. I'm putting aside Japan, of course, which is another matter. And I would say that time-wise, if it lasts longer, then you do not waste money more than you should do if you bought some equipment from Asia and lasted less. So I believe that you have to take your decision if you will have to use the materials supplied from by Europe and the ones by Asia. The same comparison can be done also to the hulls of the vessels. If an owner has bought a vessel which is made in Japan, then the hull will last for 20 years without any specific, let's say, problems. It will last forever, let's say. It will be sailing without needing too much repairs. But instead, on the other hand, if you buy some ship which is built in Chinese shipyards, in 10 years, it's an old lady. So, which is the let's say, the more expensive?
I can just say about that. And they were British made, or in Poland, and
I think Mary has currently internet connection issues. All right. I think it's starting to work again. Well, anyway, I hope Zoe and George, just first of all, Cecile, please, may I ask you to support Mary? George and Zoe, I have also a question in the chat. Maybe you can support here. It's from Yana Pavlopoulou. She asks, do you think that the transition to a circular production could apply in the marine sector? Do you think that ship owners should request the extended producer's responsibility principle to apply and cooperate more with repairers of used equipment? I'm sorry, Mary, I just asked. We
Sorry.
lost you, so I asked a question from the chat that one of the attendees asked, so I hope you don't mind that George or Zoe can jump in and help here.
Yes, yes.
We've lost the last part of the question. If you can repeat the last part once.
Yes, of course. Do you think that ship owners should request the extended producer's responsibility principle to apply and cooperate more with repairers of used equipment?
George, Zoe, have you heard it well?
Yeah, Zoe, please.
No, I'm not so sure that I can reply to this question because I don't understand the meaning of the problem. Well, I don't know if you have a good idea, you, George, because
I have to declare also that I'm not entirely clear about the content of the question, but if I can guess and if I understand correctly, it has to do with equipment that are basically refurbished, and if there is any guaranteed to the person who buys them as far as the marine equipment is concerned. If I understood it correctly, please, I apologize to the person who made the question. If this is the question, I can say that the shipping in the maritime business in general, they have a specific scheme which again falls under maritime regulations from the IMO as well as classification societies, which requires equipment that goes on board ships as well as other platforms or any other vessels to be certified. And when we say certified, it means that somebody like a classification society has to come to verify that the equipment meets certain standards, either it's new or refurbished. And only when it meets these standards, there is a certificate issued, which means that, yes, this equipment can go on board the vessel and yes, it can be used. So it's not as open as in a shaft broke, I can find one, oh, here is one lying down here, I'll take it and use it. It's not like that. There are quite a lot of restrictions on what you use on board the vessel and under what conditions and so forth.
Thank you both. I've got messages that we only have 30 seconds, so can you make a brief statement?
Well, in regard to what George said, I think that most of the vessels are using the new ones are always complying with what George said. They require also the certification. However, in the older vessels, and depending on the, let's say, evaluation by the chief engineer or the superintendent engineer of the company, they can accept also some reports which are measurements that will prove that it's good to fit. Sometimes certificate is not given.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, George. Thank you, everyone, for following